Close your eyes and try to imagine a world where the ground beneath your feet doesn't just hold you, it vibrates. Imagine a horizon where the trees don't just sway in the wind, but snap like toothpicks under the weight of something so massive it defies every rule of modern biology. We live in an age of mammals, where the African elephant is the undisputed king of the land. But in the grand theater of Earth's history, the elephant is a mere footnote. To truly understand the scale of our planet's past, we have to look back over 100 million years to an era where evolution went into overdrive. An era of the sauropods, the theropods, and the giants that pushed the laws of physics to the absolute breaking point. Today, we aren't just talking about big animals. We're talking about the longest, the tallest, and the heaviest. We're going to rank the record breakers that make a T-Rex look like a pet and a blue whale seem like the only modern rival to the ancient crown. How did they breathe? How did their hearts pump blood up necks that reached the 5th floor of a building? And most importantly, who was the true king of the scales? Let's dive into the world of the Titans. The 15 elephant rule. When we talk about size, the most scientific way to measure greatness is mass. Length is impressive and height is majestic, but weight? Weight is what gravity fights against every single second. For a long time, the world was obsessed with the Brachiosaurus, but as paleontology advanced, we realized there was a level of heavy we hadn't even dreamed of. Enter the Argentinosaurus wincolensis. Discovered in the wind-swept plains of Patagonia, this animal isn't just a dinosaur, it's a biological impossibility. When scientists first found a single vertebra, just one segment of its spine, it was nearly 5 feet tall. From that one bone, the scale of the beast began to emerge. Estimates place the Argentinosaurus at a weight of somewhere between 70 and 90 metric tons. To put that in perspective for your ears, a standard African bush elephant weighs about 6 tons. That means one Argentinosaurus was equivalent to a thundering herd of 15 elephants combined into a single living, breathing organism. But how does a creature that heavy even move? If you or I were scaled up to that size, our bones would shatter instantly under our own weight. The Argentinosaurus survived because of pillar-like engineering. Its legs weren't like ours. They were vertical columns of solid bone and massive muscle positioned directly under the body to distribute the pressure. Their bones weren't solid like a lead pipe either. They were honeycombed with air sacs, a gift from their avian ancestors, which made the skeleton light enough to move but strong enough to support a weight that would crush a modern tank. And then there is the heart. Imagine the pressure required to move blood from a heart the size of a refrigerator through a neck that is 30 feet long, all the way to a brain that is sitting way up in the sky. If the Argentinosaurus lowered its head too quickly to drink, the blood pressure could have caused a massive stroke. To prevent this, they likely had a series of biological valves in their neck, much like giraffes do today, but on a scale that is hard to wrap the human mind around. But Argentinosaurus isn't the only contender for the heavyweight belt. In the murky world of paleontology, where we often only find 10 or 20% of a skeleton, names like Patagotitan and Puertosaurus frequently enter the conversation. Patagotitan, often called the Titan of Patagonia, was recently reconstructed from museums, showing off a 120-foot frame. While it might have been slightly lighter than Argentinosaurus, it represents a peak in evolution where nature decided that too big simply didn't exist. These animals were so large that they were essentially immune to predators once they reached adulthood. Can you imagine a pack of Mapusaurus trying to take down a 90-ton Argentinosaurus? It would be like a group of house cats trying to take down a moving skyscraper. The only way to hunt a giant was to wait for it to be young, old, or sick. Otherwise, the sheer mass of these titans was their ultimate suit of armor. While mass is the measure of power, height was the measure of survival. In the Jurassic and Cretaceous periods, the high canopy was a goldmine of untouched food. If you could reach the tops of the tallest conifers, you had no competition. This evolutionary pressure gave birth to the skyscrapers of the dinosaur world. For a century, Brachiosaurus was the face of height. With its long front legs and shorter back legs, it looked like a prehistoric giraffe. But then we found Sauroposeidon. The name itself says it all, the lizard earthquake god. Sauroposeidon didn't just walk, it dominated the vertical space of the North American forests. Standing at an estimated 18 meters tall, that's nearly 60 feet, this creature could literally look into the 6th-story window of a modern apartment building. Think about that for a second. If you were standing at its feet, you wouldn't just be looking up, you would be looking at a wall of flesh that disappeared into the clouds. These dinosaurs evolved to be the ultimate harvesters. They didn't waste energy walking around to find bushes. They stood in one place, swung their massive necks in a wide arc, and stripped every leaf from every tree within a 50-foot radius. It was a strategy of maximum efficiency. If the Argentinosaurus was the master of weight, and the Sauroposeidon was the master of height, there was another group of dinosaurs that focused on a different dimension: length. Imagine a creature so long that if its nose was at the goal line of a football field, its tail would reach nearly to the 40-yard line. This was the world of the diplodocids. The superstar of this category is Diplodocus halorum, a beast formerly known by the much cooler name Seismosaurus, the earth-shaking lizard. When we talk about length, we're talking about a total body span of 35 to 40 meters. But where did all that length come from? It wasn't just the neck. The secret weapon of the Diplodocus was its tail. While most dinosaurs had tails for balance, the Diplodocus had a tail that was a masterpiece of biological engineering. It consisted of over 80 vertebrae, tapering down from thick, muscular segments at the base to a thin, wiry tip that looked like a literal whip. For years, paleontologists wondered, why have a tail that long? Some thought it was a rudder for swimming, but modern computer simulations have revealed a much more terrifying theory. Scientists believe that the Diplodocus could flick the end of its tail so fast that it broke the sound barrier. Imagine a crack louder than a supersonic jet or a cannon blast echoing through the Jurassic forests. This wasn't just for show. This supersonic whip could have been used to intimidate predators or even as a lethal weapon. One strike from a tail moving at Mach 1 would have been enough to shatter the ribs of an Allosaurus or tear through the skin of any challenger. When you are 130 feet long, you don't need to run. You just need to make sure nothing wants to get close to you. But we cannot talk about length without mentioning the most bizarre proportions in the fossil record. If you think a giraffe has a long neck, you haven't met the Mamenchisaurus. This Chinese titan possessed a neck that was 15 meters long, nearly 50 feet of pure neck. That is half of its entire body length. This creates a biological puzzle. How do you breathe through a tube that is 50 feet long? In humans, if you tried to breathe through a 50-foot straw, you would just breathe in your own dead air and suffocate. The Mamenchisaurus solved this with a complex system of air sacs connected to its lungs. Every time it took a breath, the air moved in a one-way circuit, constantly flushing out the old CO2 and bringing in fresh oxygen. This ultra-efficient respiratory system is what allowed dinosaurs to grow to sizes that mammals simply cannot reach. They were essentially giant walking bellows, pumping life into bodies that seemed to defy the limits of nature. Now, we must shift our focus. While the long-necked herbivores were the true heavyweights, everyone wants to know about the predators. Who was the biggest bad guy of the Mesozoic? This is where the debate gets heated, because biggest depends on how you measure it. For decades, the Tyrannosaurus rex was the undisputed king. Then, in the 1990s and early 2000s, new challengers emerged from the deserts of Africa and South America, the Spinosaurus and the Gigantinosaurus. Let's start with the Spinosaurus. In terms of pure length, the Spinosaurus wins the gold medal. reaching up to 15 or even 16 meters. It was longer than any T-Rex ever found. With its massive sail on its back and its crocodile-like snout, it was a terrifying sight. But here is the catch. The Spinosaurus was built for the water. It was long and slender, designed for swimming and catching giant prehistoric fish. If you put it on a scale, it might have been lighter than a top-tier T-Rex. Then there is the Gigantinosaurus. This giant southern lizard was slightly longer than a T-Rex and had a skull the size of a bathtub. It was a specialist in hunting the massive sauropods we discussed earlier. It didn't have the bone-crushing bite of a T-Rex. Instead, it had steak knife teeth designed to slice through flesh, causing its prey to bleed out. But if we go back to our most important metric, mass, the king might still hold the crown. The Tyrannosaurus rex was the tank of the theropod world. A specimen like Sue or Scotty shows us a dinosaur that was incredibly thick, muscular, and heavy. While Spinosaurus was longer, the T-Rex was bulkier, weighing in at nearly 9 tons of pure predatory power. It had the most powerful bite force of any land animal in history, over 12,000 pounds per square inch. That's enough to explode the bones of its prey. So, in the Battle of the Giants, Spinosaurus was the longest, but Tyrannosaurus rex was arguably the most powerful and heaviest land predator to ever walk the earth. It's a perfect example of how evolution creates different types of big. One was a long, agile river hunter. The other was a heavy-duty, bone-crushing apex predator.
The largest skulls, the shields of the earth. While the sauropods were growing long and the theropods were growing heavy, another group of dinosaurs was winning the evolution game through their heads. We're talking about the ceratopsians, the horned giants. If you think a triceratops is impressive, you haven't met the Eotriceratops or the Torosaurus. The skull of an Eotriceratops was a masterpiece of biological defense and display. Imagine a single piece of bone, including the massive frill at the back, that measures nearly 3 meters. That's 10 feet long. To put that in perspective, the skull of this dinosaur was larger than a modern SUV. These weren't just heads, they were massive shields of solid bone, often adorned with horns as long as a human arm. But why have a head that large? It wasn't just for protection against the bone-crushing bite of a tyrannosaur. These massive frills were likely used for social signaling, showing off to mates or intimidating rivals within the herd. They were covered in skin and blood vessels, meaning they could have changed color or flushed with blood during a display. When you are a multi-ton animal, you don't always want to fight. Sometimes just having the biggest, scariest-looking head in the forest is enough to win the battle without ever locking horns. If we move away from the heavy skulls, we find one of the most bizarre creatures ever to walk the earth, Therizinosaurus. For years, paleontologists only found its claws, and they were terrified. These claws weren't just big, they were nearly 1 meter, over 3 feet long. They looked like giant curved scythes, blades that could disembowel a predator with a single swipe. For a long time, scientists assumed Therizinosaurus was the ultimate killing machine. But as they found more of the skeleton, the truth was even weirder. This Freddy Krueger of the dinosaur world was actually a herbivore. It used those 3-foot claws to reach high into the trees and pull down branches, or perhaps to rip open giant termite mounds. Imagine a creature that looks like a 10-ton pot-bellied turkey with the arms of a slasher movie villain. It is a reminder that in the Mesozoic, big and weird often went hand in hand.
Now we must ask the most important question. If dinosaurs could reach 90 tons, why didn't they reach 200? Why wasn't there a dinosaur the size of a mountain? There is something called the square cube law in physics. If you double the size of an animal, its surface area triples, but its volume and weight quadruple. Eventually, the weight of the animal becomes so great that even the strongest biological materials, bone and ligament, simply cannot support it. We call this the biological ceiling. For a land animal, that limit is estimated to be around 100 to 120 tons. Anything heavier than that, and the dinosaur's legs would likely snap just by standing up. The only way to get bigger is to go into the water, which is why the blue whale can weigh nearly 200 tons. The water supports its mass. But dinosaurs found every loophole in the laws of physics. They had hollow bones to save weight, they had a bird-like respiratory system to maximize oxygen, and they had pillar-like limbs to distribute pressure. They were the absolute maximum of what nature can achieve on solid ground.
We cannot talk about size without mentioning the Ankylosaurus. While not the longest or tallest, it was arguably the most solid. At 8 meters long and weighing up to 8 tons, it was a walking fortress. Its skin was embedded with osteoderms, bony plates that were essentially bulletproof. The club at the end of its tail was made of fused bone and could swing with enough force to shatter the ankles of a T-Rex. In the world of giants, being the biggest wasn't the only way to survive. Being the hardest to eat was just as effective.
As we stand here, millions of years after the last titan took its final breath, we have to face a humbling truth. The biggest dinosaur we've discussed today, the Argentinosaurus, might not actually be the biggest one that ever lived. In the world of paleontology, we are working with a puzzle where 99% of the pieces have been destroyed by time. Think about the Amphicoelius fragilimus. In the late 1800s, a giant vertebra was found, estimated to be 2.4 meters tall. If that bone was real, the animal it belonged to would have been nearly 60 meters long, almost 200 feet. But the bone was lost, and all we have left are sketches. We call these ghost giants. They haunt the fossil record, reminding us that for every skeleton we find in a museum, there are likely dozens of even larger species that were washed away by rivers, crushed by tectonic plates, or turned into dust before humans ever walked the earth. We are only scratching the surface of how big life can truly get.
It is a strange irony of evolution that while the 90-ton giants went extinct, their smallest relatives survived. When you look at a sparrow or a pigeon today, you are looking at a maniraptoran dinosaur. They traded mass for flight and heavy bones for feathers. But even among birds, the giant gene occasionally resurfaces. Think of the Apiornis, the elephant bird of Madagascar, which stood 3 meters tall and laid eggs the size of watermelons. Or the Forus racos, the terror birds that hunted like T-Rexes in South America long after the asteroids fell. Nature has a way of returning to the giant blueprint whenever the environment allows it. The giants didn't just disappear, they changed shape.
So why do we care so much about who was the longest, the tallest, or the heaviest? Is it just about the records? No, it's about understanding the limits of life itself. By studying the Argentinosaurus or the Spinosaurus, we are learning how the heart, the lungs, and the bones can adapt to extreme stress. We are learning how an ecosystem can support a creature that needs to eat hundreds of pounds of plants every single hour just to stay alive. The existence of these giants tells us that our planet was once a very different place, richer in oxygen, denser in vegetation, and governed by a different set of biological rules. These titans are a testament to the ambition of evolution. They prove that life will always expand to fill every available space. If there is a high branch, a neck will grow to reach it. If there is a heavy predator, a tail will grow to crush it. If there is an ocean, a body will grow to dominate it. Today, the ground doesn't shake when we walk. The tallest thing in the forest is a tree, not a living neck. But every time a paleontologist brushes away the dust from a massive femur in the deserts of Argentina or the Badlands of Montana, the giants wake up for a brief moment. We live in a world of shadows, walking where monsters once stepped. The Diplodocus with its supersonic tail, the T-Rex with its bone-crushing jaws, and the Sauroposeidon reaching for the clouds. They are all part of a grand story that we are still writing. The next time you look at a skyscraper, imagine a Sauroposeidon looking back at you through the window. The next time you hear a thunderclap, imagine the sound of a Diplodocus flicking its tail. And the next time you feel a vibration in the ground, remember, once upon a time, the Earth belonged to the Titans. And though they are gone, their scale, their power, and their sheer impossible size will continue to fascinate us
as long as we keep looking down into the dirt to find our past.